to start this video off with a bit of a confession. I am actually deconstructing another collage because I want to use this brick pattern in this new collage. So it actually belonged to a collage that was called geometric or symmetrical. I just remembered it was a portion of the Great Wall of China. I didn't have a lot of brick images on hand, so I just grabbed this. And this video is brought to you by the fact I was clearing my studio desk and I was also prepping for the workshop I'm conducting currently. And what happens is I get inspired by other imagery and mixing and matching vintage with contemporary. I just couldn't help myself. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on this video. Glad you're along for the ride. What I like about imagery like this, there's no way, well, maybe there is a way, but I don't think I would guess that this was ever the top of a brandy glass. And you separate images, and the next thing you know, you have something that looks completely different than what it was meant to be. I did that last week. Well, I did that with another alcoholic drink in a magazine, just using the circular part of the glass. It was like a strawberry margarita. And once I cut it free, it was impossible really to see what it was. That's what makes collage special also in terms of the creativity people have for it. And you don't have to worry too much about copyright because you've altered the image so much. Again, we don't know what this was. Separated from the brandy glass, it's kind of impossible to tell what it was. I wanted to talk a little bit about this little vintage piece. Actually, the magazine paper that it's on, I think it was from the 1960s or late 70s, or early 70s rather. And I like to use my scissors when I am cutting out vintage imagery. I have found with my X-Acto knife that it rips easier for some reason. The precision of the X-Acto makes the paper makes fragile paper more susceptible to being crumbling and not withholding its tensile strength. Because there's a lot of foxing going on with this paper. It's turning yellow, it's weaker, it's fragile. So I like to use scissors when I cut out vintage imagery. Sometimes I have to use that X-Acto knife. I just make sure the blade is really strong and I just don't press down that hard. So I got this wrench. I really like the way it looks. It's not a picture. It looks like it's an illustration from an old magazine. Can't remember which one. I do have another vintage image that I'm going to be using for this piece also. And of course some contemporary. But he is going to be the focal point. She's going to also share the focal point responsibilities. And I'm going to get back to work here and cut these two out. So this is a more absurd collage that I'm doing this week, not based on a drawing or shapes or anything like that. And I definitely want to include this guy in the image. And I want to be careful because I'm trying to use her as a template, but I got my guy here too, and if I cut here with him taped on the back, he might get cut, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to try, and I think what I'm going to do is just gently remove this. I'm using packing tape. It's fairly forgiving. Set this off to the side. I'm going to continue on. I also broke my template, or rather cut the template, and I didn't want to do that initially, so I taped it back together and it looks like it's going to be okay. This is an older magazine. I'm guessing from the 80s. I don't even remember where I got it from. So I want to continue cutting. I have the brick wall. I'm happy with that. I also have the brick lane. Whoops. We're just going back over here where he belongs so we don't hurt him. So I think I'll have enough for what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm going to hang on to the body parts. They're coming out pretty good. Don't know if I'm going to use them in another collage or at all. They may get tossed. So I'm going to now cut around here. I've got a little bit of an issue. I want to maintain this. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to probably cut around here, try to maintain my template, and cut that part out. Let me see how it works. I'm kind of winging this as I go along. This is turning out to be a little bit more challenging than I anticipated. I was thinking I'm going to do a quick little absurd collage and that's all she wrote. And I want it to be absurd and I want it to be as tight and streamlined as I can get it, and I'm running into difficulties. First of all, vintage paper, it's not fun to work with, it rips. I cut into my template, which I didn't want to do. I'm trying to keep my other focal point from getting cut, and I've got to maintain this template so I get the look that I want to achieve. I'm using these little bits of drafting tape to keep everything in place. I want to keep these hands, I'm going to keep the chest area and the hair, and I still have a long way to go, and I'm very concerned about the negative space. I've got to maintain that negative space, but once I cut, the negative space might get cut along with it. So this is turning into a little bit more of a challenge, which I accept, and we're going to keep going and see what we come up with. I hope it's successful. It will be, just because we're trying something new, and I'm using a technique that I often use in my videos, using that silhouette template technique. It's my go-to instead of just cutting out pieces, using this type of piece as a template. I always found that to be, I don't know, just was more messy, and it never got the look that I wanted. So we're going to keep going with this. Everything's fine, but I am having to tape things down to make sure that they stay in place. And this is really old drafting tape too. So I'm just going to go slow. Nothing wrong with that. Watch out for my negative space, because if I lose the negative space, I might get confused and make a cut that I don't want to make, and I can't go back. So let's keep going. Jumping ahead a little bit, I'm trying to consider putting this wrench here. And to do that, I want to make sure that I can make some delicate cuts in this hand region and slip it in so it looks like it belongs there, because that'll make it look more interesting. And it looks like we should be able to do it. I thought it was going to go this way. I wanted it tilted the other way. Okay, no harm, but I just went ahead and made that cut because I want to weave this ephemera into the focal point. Is it going to work? Don't know yet, and I got some little bit of magazine. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to trim off a little ragged edge. Anyway, I'm going to go back to working on this arm. The other thing I wanted to do was the whole upper part of the model's body. I wanted it to be this brick, but I got my negative space that is very, very important. And I think I should be able to do it, but you see I'm going to have to cut this off to have a template. But let's see. Yeah, I'm major thinking out loud here. So I'm just going to go around and make the cut. It's such a small space, I should be able to wing it if I lose that negative space. If I lose that template, I don't want to lose that yet. So I'm just going to take a chance here and see what happens. I was going to do it bit by bit, have her arms be a different type of brick than her body, her torso, but I'm thinking no. I'm thinking I just want the whole thing to look the same, the whole upper part of the body to look the same. And here I'm running into my tape. I want to do that, but I need it there too to keep everything in place, because this was just, again, I ran into a little problem, and not a big deal. It happens, and that's fine. I welcome the challenge. Can't have everything go smoothly all the time, unfortunately, even with collage. And I gotta keep these hands in place. Oh wow, I gotta cut around these hands. Yeah, this is definitely turning into becoming much more complicated. Okay, I'm gonna do, well, no, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I do need to do like an arm at a time. I could hang on to this little bit and use it as a template, which I really don't like to do. Cut it out. Let's see. So, yeah, see the hands? Okay, it's already been removed, so there's really not much I can do with that. So this is what I'm going to try to do. I'm just going to use the template, hang on to this, of course. Oh my gosh, this piece here, down here with the legs, I'm going to have to definitely glue this down. Not glue it down, but just kind of keep it down with some drafting tape. Take the adhesive off the drafting tape, even though it's not supposed to stick too much, especially with this little vintage paper I have down here, the vintage paper. It will really mess things up. It might get ripped, and I don't want to do that. So let's see. Okay. What I can do, let's just play with it for a second. Do I want this? What's going to work? That doesn't look too bad. Has a nice contrast. So what I'm thinking about doing is if I go with this section of the wall and I stay with that, which might be good, I have to think about the bottom part. I don't want to lose the hands. I got to keep the hands. Oh my gosh. Not sure if I'm going to just stay with this. Thinking I'm going to have to remove the hands, and I did not want to do that. These are really delicate. Look, well, they are still attached to each other, so I'm going to go ahead and take the chance. I'm just going to cut these guys out. Again, it's vintage paper. It's a little stronger than the black and white vintage paper I also have in this composition, but not by much more. It should be attached. I'll make this cut. Just going really slow, using the scissors instead of the X-Acto. Okay. All right, hands free. Hands free. See what I did there? Gotta clean this up a little bit for my template. Okay, I'm going to basically, I didn't want to move that either. Okay, I'll just figure something out. Kind of like this look. Because then they'll offer some contrast. Okay. So what's going to happen, gotta remember the hands are there. Oi. I could go ahead and glue the hands down here. And by glue I mean Mod Podge. Because I don't want to lose the template. I really, really don't. So this goes over that. I should cut this part free. It doesn't matter. Wow, this really is turning into something else. At this point, I'm almost ready to jump onto Photoshop. I'm kidding, I'm not going to do that. Okay. I'll keep thinking in time lapse. So far, so good. I had to glue the hands on, which means it might compromise my little idea with that cut I made. I can go back and do the cut. I kind of don't want to because it's vintage paper. It's already been through a lot, but I am happy with the way it's holding together. It looks like it will work. Kind of want to pull this tape up. The longer the tape stays on there, even though there's not a lot of adhesive on it, the greater the chance it's going to rip when I pull it up. That's my only concern with the vintage paper and using drafting tape. But everything else, again, it's looking okay. So now I want to remove her hair, and I want to do a template for that. Actually, I think I'm just going to cut, because what I want to do, making it absurd and scary, is I want to put this on, and I want her to have that same hair. So that being said, I may not have to do a big cut. So what I'm going to do first off is tighten my blade. I'm going to cut around where her face is and the hair, because I want to keep everything intact. Instead of just removing the hair, I'm going to maybe tuck this Day of the Dead skull in where her hair is. And just tuck it in. I won't really be removing too much. Let's see if that's going to work. So, face is here. Here's the hair. Oh, the skull is too big that way. And maybe we can tuck it in this way. A little more cutting. So cutting along the hair as it's falling on the body. I need to cut that so it'll have room. And okay, let me see how that, I'm just doing a little bit at a time, because when I make a cut on vintage paper, there's really no going back. Not really. Where does everything go? Oh my gosh. Yeah, this skull is really big. I may have to make the head as a wig. Okay, just gonna do it then. I do want to keep this in place. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of glue, some leftover glue from where I glued the hands down. So it'll be glued in place. And there'll be enough glue to keep it in place, even for the final image. And there's still a little bit of leeway with Mod Podge. If I need to lift it up, move things around, it'll allow me to do that. So let's just cut her head off. I'm just gonna get, but I want to keep the hair. The head is going. We do want to keep the hair. It's going to give me a little bit more room to move around. I'm not cutting my body template quite yet. The hair. Okay, I'm probably not going to use that face again. And let's see, so the template, the body template is what I'm worried about, so I think we can just go ahead and set that off to the side. Then we're moving on to this hair and this skull, and how is that going to operate together? Okay, let me just cut the hair out all together. I'll use the scissors for that. There's no need for the X-Acto. So this was a lot more technical. There was a lot more, I don't know how to put it, mechanics in this collage, because I am doing it analog. Yes, if you do these kind of collages on Photoshop, you have a lot more room to breathe. I don't want to, because I want my collage to be cut and paste, this one anyway, but I will definitely go into Photoshop and play with color saturation, especially since we are working with a vintage image. The colors may be a little less vibrant, but that's also what adds to the contrast, and also makes using vintage imagery so fun in collage, because you combine it with the contemporary and you can have a lot of fun. So I want to keep that hair just as it is. Okay, there was some packing tape on that. Let's see. So maybe no hair for this gal. I really wanted to use that hair. Just this. Creepy, huh? Give him a little trim around here. Or her. Little candy skull. Calaveras. It is kind of fun. And the hair, I don't think the hair is going to work. Just tossed it. What I can do, I suppose, if I want to, I can go ahead and add someone else's hair from another image. That can also be a lot of fun. I may not today. I'll think about it. So technically, I'm ready to cut the body out. There's a little bit of a mess here. And that's just me being kind of picky. This is going to get covered up. So, I mean, me cutting this to make it look clean isn't really necessary. So I will probably go ahead and just cut this body out. Everything seems to be glued pretty well. I'm going to start by making sure my guy here is safe. I don't want to cut him. I don't want to run that risk. Cutting him. Also, we got her foot here. How do I delineate the foot? Because that's going to be, I don't know. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. I did want the shape of her foot here, so I may have to go the route of mixed media. Grabbing a Sharpie here, as you can see, and I'm just going to trace out where her foot's supposed to be. I usually don't do this. I tend to enjoy keeping everything pure ephemera. I don't put my hand in too much in this regard. Obviously, I do with my drawing collages, like the Buddha and a couple other ones. How does that look? Well, at least I have something to work with when it comes to cutting out the template. I know where the leg met. Okay, so I had a little problem here, as you can see, with this rear thigh. And it didn't quite match up to the template. So I'm just going to, again, take artistic license and start doing my cutting this way. And make it look like it was always so. Gave her a little bit more back. Why not? And continue the cut with the X-Acto. Tempting to use the scissors, but this template is so tender. I don't want to do that. And I'm going to stop right here because I wanted the foot to match. Okay, that part should be done. Another foot to match. Looks like it's matching okay. I'm going to cut this tape away. Okay. I'm trying really hard to not cut this template until I am absolutely certain that's what I'm good with what I have. It's a mess. Yeah, this was definitely a different type of challenge for me. Maybe not for somebody else. I may even be making this harder than it needed to be. Okay. So I can cut this away from his arm. Trying to be careful. I guess my cuts weren't really clean. Okay. And down here, trim away. Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of a ragged edge. Not a big deal. Oh wait, no, that belongs there. That's what I wanted. Okay, her leg looks a little bit on the wonky side. Let's see. Okay, then continue cutting this out and head on back to time lapse for that. So I want to leave it to you guys. Which background do you like more? I'm going to play with it a little bit in Photoshop. I kind of like this background. I don't know. This has definite possibilities. You know what? I think I just want to go with this. Maybe because I'm a little tired. I don't know. I like it. Yeah. I think this is good. We're going to give this background a go. So I am going to go with background. And I am going to clean up, and you know what happens when I clean up my workspace? I end up making more collages. Anyway, thank you for bearing with me and being patient and hanging out to the end. I will see you next week.